Hi, my name is Adedotun Eyinade. I am one of the co-founders of RovingHeights Bookstores. I'm a book lover because I think it takes, a deep love for books to
own a bookstore.
own a bookstore.
Yes,
Yeah, it's just one of those businesses that you need to be like really, really passionate about to run. I'm a dad, a proud dad. I've got 2 kids.
Awesome.
I'm married. I love to travel. I'm still. My goal is to reach. Visit as many countries as possible, perhaps to be commensurate with my age. I'm not there yet, right? And I'm really, really involved in my community. Like, most of the things that I do revolves around like just making my community better. That's all.
Great, great. So tell me about your childhood. How was it like growing up? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was born in Lagos, and sadly, Lagos is no longer home.
It's no longer home.
Yeah,
Oh wow!
I was born in Lagos. I was born on the mainland. I was born in Agege. I was born to two teachers. So both my parents were teachers, and it was such a tough neighborhood. I know it sounds like a very
Agege.
cliche thing to say about growing up in that part of town. And I guess for me, one of the reasons why I developed a love for book was because it was the only like solace I could find. Like, after school, you have to go home, stay indoors or get bullied by kids in the neighborhood. So yeah, primary school was in Agege. Same for secondary school. Most people like find it difficult. So when I tell them secondary school I attended, like oh, wow.
What secondary school was it?
No, I won't mention it.
No, you can't.
I won't mention the name. Like, it's an obscure secondary school.
Oh, okay.
But it's part of who I am, right? So part of those influences that shaped me into who I am today. I am the first of 3 kids. I've got 2 sisters, and one of my sisters is actually my business partner, Toby.
Oh, awesome.
So Toby and I co-founded the business. And the 3 of us, I guess, like, we sort of like share that, love for books. So our parents made sure that there were, books around for us to read, and then we had most of our friends growing up were people who also like to read, right? So we would swap books, and that was like an essential part of me. But one of the things that that environment and my interest in books did for me was give me the opportunity to be able to dream of a world outside of Agege, what was possible, right? To say like, oh, what would we like to like go to some of those places I read about in books, and then sort of like fired my imagination and made me dream. So so that was childhood, so primary, secondary was in Lagos. Then my undergrad was in Ife, so I'm a proud great Ife. And then what that also did for me, met some really beautiful minds and people who challenged me, and they're still my friends up to date. Most of the people I met, and some of them are like the closest folks to me. Yeah, so that was childhood for me.
Great. So I was reading about your background, and I saw like there was a huge career shift, and you were doing something entirely different. So tell me about it. At what point did you decide that maybe not put my career on hold, but I want to really do this. I want to own a bookstore. I want to let other people, create some sort of reading culture.
Yeah, so it started from the university, right? A book reading in Lagos.
Okay.
I came all the way from Ota, where my family house was, and I moved down to came to the island. And then after the book reading, I beg your pardon, I spoke with the authors to say, oh, it'd be nice to host you guys in Ife. I was like, yeah, sure, if you can pull it together. So we ended up organizing that book reading. We brought Jude DBR and El Nukoya, there was both of them to campus, and so they read the books, and then we started so what will it take to get books, in the hands of students, right? Get people to read these amazing books and bring it closer to them. And so that was how the whole idea started. So as soon as I left the university, as soon as I was doing my youth service, 2 weeks after I started working consulting. And so one of the first things I did was to start, to hire somebody, and got the person to stay in my flat to help self-published authors distribute their books. So I, from my salary, I'll pay the person like a monthly stipend to help distribute books. And after a while, I got super busy with my work. But one of the things I also started to do was to have like monthly book fairs and monthly book readings. So there used to be a bookstore on the mainland called Debonair's. It's on the ground floor of the building where you have CC Hub.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a big, bookstore, also owned by an ex-consultant. So we used to work in the same firm, but was many years my senior. So he started that, and then I used to like, just dream of like owning my own space. But then I got tired of like, my work in consulting. I wanted to do something with like a real world impact. And so what that meant was having to like, quit my job. And I took a year off to do a fellowship in the US. And so just what that experience did for me was just helping me to develop confidence in myself and to like, and just go out there and pursue my dreams. Like, so while I was away, my sister was, came on board, Toby came on board, and then she started to like, oh yeah, let's see what we can do. Then she started to experiment with like social media to see how to like, stimulate interest in books, and that's how, like, the interest, started to come, and then, RovingHeights became what it is today.
What did you study in school?
Microbiology.
Aha, because I was trying to judge. I was like, what did you study? Did you study English, arts, or something?
So I did microbiology, but whilst I was a student, I was a member of the campus press. So I edited like a campus, journal.
Articles,
then I was the secretary of the Association of Campus Journalists. So my first love is actually like journalism. Like just.
Did you ever try to pursue journalism?
I did. School? So I did. I worked as a freelance journalist for Tribune for like a few months.
Why did you stop?
I thought he couldn't pay my bills.
Every journalist thinks like that.
Yeah, I thought he couldn't pay my bills, like, and then so, consulting paid way better, and so it was, I thought journalists in Nigeria were poorly paid.
Journalism in Nigeria basically.
Poorly paid, like, like I wasn't dreaming of becoming rich or like super wealthy, but I just wanted something that would be comfortable and be able to like, take care of my kids, but I didn't think journalism was going to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so that's my journey.
So ever since establishing RovingHeights, what has been like a major challenge for you? I mean, I know it's difficult running a business in Nigeria. I've been there, done that, left, go back, and everything. But for you, I mean, you've worked somewhere, you did consulting, so you kind of had an understanding of what the business space looks like. But how was it then doing something different, something not necessarily new? Because I mean, we have a lot of bookstores in Nigeria, but it was in this era and time with a lot of social media influence, it's going to be really hard to get people to get back into the reading culture. So what were the challenges that you had?
Well, so I mean, if you're going to reel off challenges, I'm sure it will be same as anyone who's running a business in Nigeria. So of course, like the usual Jeremy financing, like how do you raise financing, like So we started the business from my dining room on my flat on the mainland in Bagada. And so it was like, okay, so how do you don't have money, you don't have so much money, you want to start, you want to take on like established incumbents. And if you look at, the bookstore business, so most of the bookstores the prominent bookstores you have in Nigeria are actually family owned.
Yes,
So I don't want to reel off names, but like, they're family owned. So, and some of them have been in the business for like 30 decades, right? So you're coming in as an upstart. So how do you, raise the resources that you need to be able to like, also make an impact in the space. So that was, very well like a difficult challenge. And for us, the saving grace was just, staying at it, right? The fact that we're very, resilient for the most part. Like when we came in, getting authors to trust us, to say like, publishers to trust us, to give us like, give us credit lines. So that helped. Of course, like I'm sure now, like with what we have in our bank account, if I talk to our bankers, they'll be happy to like help us out like, with a loan. But at that point, we're starting out like no one will take a bet on us. So that was financing, then getting people. So the competition for talent, like so if fresh out of school you want to work for you're super smart, you want to work, you probably want to work for like the big names, recognizable brands, and like so how do you go work for a company that's just operating out of the dining room, right? It will look like, oh, maybe you don't have any prospects, so it was really hard getting people, and then getting good people, working with them, training them, just getting them to be able to like serve customers in a way that is professional. So that's always like a constant battle, right? You need to, go the whole route of like hiring people. Sometimes like, when you hire, the next challenge is retaining talent if they're good. And then, if there are people who you need to work on, how do you get them to operate at the level at which you want? So that's also like another major challenge, And then just the general business environment, like, it's really, really tough. The fact that today the dollar is like,
let's not talk about dollar.
400 and tomorrow is like 500.
It's not
So we have a lot of credit lines, like, bulk of the books you have here are from the UK and the US, and we bought them on credit, right? So if you sold the book 4 months ago and you've priced them at when the dollar was 440, and you need to pay back when the invoice is due and it's now 500, so you pretty much have lost 50 naira on every dollar, or if it's the pounds, it's the same way. So just the general business environment, you're at a time where, like, disposable income is shrinking. People have to prioritize, and like books are not like really like essential things that people read them for. So it's just part of those challenges that you face. Those are the things I would.
I can imagine. So let's describe your first sale. So when you made your first sale, how did you feel?
Yeah, it was good.
It?
Can I remember now? It will be years ago, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it must have come from like word of mouth, right? So yeah, we're selling the stuff, somebody, and when we're starting out, we depended heavily on that before we pivoted into social media, using Instagram to do that. So for instance, some of the most memorable sales would be like when we open a new physical store, right? When we open our Abuja store, and I remember the couple that came in, both of them, still. They were, just about like maybe some months to getting married, so they were still dating, and they came in. We're still like fitting out the space, and like, oh, you guys, you want to wait till tomorrow? Tomorrow is the opening day. And
Exactly.
like, we can get it now. So they bought the books from us, and they've gone on from being customers to being like family friends, right? So like I remember we were still visiting them when they had a baby, like so,
nice.
And that's like the beauty of like of this kinds of business, of this type of business, like it's sort of very intimate, like when customers come in, the kinds of things that they like, when you're shopping for books, like you're like, oh, I know the kinds of people that will buy this, like you have sort of like you have a few folks in mind because you have the kinds of things that they read. So that's just one of the beauty, like so I live in Abuja, and then one of the things I enjoy doing on weekends is just going to the bookstore and just interacting with customers, like trying to figure out like what they want to read, right?
Yeah.
Like if there are books that we don't carry, and it tells me like, oh, we need to start carrying these titles, right? And then sometimes you order maybe just a few copies for some sort of customers, and you realize that there are a lot of people out there who are actually interested in that. So it's just beyond, like it's not oil and gas. It's not like super profitable, like, but it's just the beauty and the joy that comes from like meeting new people, helping. See how happy people are when they come into a store and they find somebody they're looking to get, like and you can't put a price to that for anything.
Yeah. I was going to mention, because you spoke about how you started off Instagram and all that. So if you're doing a comparison mechanic right now, selling physically, which one has been like a better option for like your customers?
So it's a mixed grill, to be quite honest. So and I think so for folks in Lagos, like I feel like from the metrics we're getting, or we've seen, and this is not, it's not me guessing, it's actually what we've seen. So I imagine because of how difficult it is to get around in Lagos, so most people prefer to like just order, right? Order and then have it delivered to their homes, right? So and then of course we're still tracking the numbers, but in Abuja we realize that like a lot of people prefer to come into the physical store. It's so easy to move around, like so we find we get more footfall in Abuja than our locations in Lagos. So people come into the store and they have books, and for locations where we don't have any physical presence, like people just want the books delivered to their doorstep. It's pricey because like so let's say you've gotten a book for 5,000 naira, the average cost of delivery is about like 30% of like of the cost of an average book. So but as we grow, we hope that we can have as much increase our footprints across Nigeria, and so that would have like a concomitant impact on the cost of delivery, and hopefully like in locations where locations are not as traffic reading like Lagos. People can on weekends take their kids out and like, oh, just come into a space and make, you know, visiting a bookstore an essential part of their weekends.
Great, great. Let's talk about like the reading culture in Nigeria. So, I mean, ever since you started, do you think that to some extent, you know, the reading culture has kind of grown? So I know, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, social media is a huge disadvantage to some extent because, you know, there's a lot of ebooks, you can do this, you can do that. But with RovingHeights' presence, how do you think that has helped shape the community a bit?
Yeah. So to my mind, these are like two questions. Like, you know, so I will answer the first in terms of like reading culture. So when we talk about like, you know, how Nigerians read or what Nigerians read, I would say like, you know, contrary to what people say that we don't read, I think we read.
No, we do read.
I think we read. Like, you know, I think we read. I think what people say is, or what people mean or intend to say when we say Nigerians don't read is that perhaps they don't read the kinds of things that they expect them to read.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, you know, young people on their phones, what are they doing? They're reading. They're reading like blogs. They're reading like tweets, right? You know, that's reading, right? That's content, right?
Yes.
You know, so when they say you expect them to read like, you know, books, right? You know, perhaps they only read things that interest them. So why aren't you writing romance? Why aren't you writing like tell-alls, right? You know, like people are so into like the celebrity culture in Nigeria. So why couldn't you write like, you know, about celebrity scandal, right? You know, or write a tell-all. Someone like a celebrity got divorced. Can you write a, you know, best-selling book about it? Like that's something that people would love to read. But why aren't, you know, publishers like giving celebrities book deals to write, like, you know? So that's my own. And then the other thing would be, I also think that when we complain and gripe about like reading culture, I think they are essentially about two things. One, access, right? You know, how many bookstores do we have, right, in Nigeria? Nigeria is a country of like over 200 million people. You know, you travel around, you know, what passes for bookstores in Nigeria, perhaps like stationery stores where you only like, you know, buy or sell religious books. But like, you know, you go to Nairobi, you know, they have, you know, few decent bookstores. You go to South Africa, you know, which is about like a third of our population. They have exclusive, which is like a chain of about 50 stores. Like, you know, I know the middle class in Nigeria doesn't come close to, in South Africa is like, you know, way bigger than like, you know, what we have in Nigeria. But I think that, you know, if we solve the access challenge of like having, you know, neighborhood bookstores that caters to like the reading interest of people living in Bagada, you know, or living in Lekki one, like, you know, what are the kinds of things that they read? You know, perhaps, you know, we're talking about something different, like, you know. So that's one. They also think it's also a pricing issue. To say like books are not cheap, right?
I know that.
Yeah, I mean good books, right? You know, not the ones sold in traffic or, you know, pirated books. Right?
Pirated,
yeah. So books don't come cheap, right? So when people rank their, you know, their priorities, like they need to eat, they need to clothe their kids, they need to clothe themselves, they need to pay their, you know, their rent. You know, books don't, you know, they don't really rank higher on those things, right? You know, so, but, you know, as disposable income grows, when you know that like, oh, the cost of the book is just maybe 2 recharge cards, you know, something I can gift out, something I can, you know, go to watch a cinema or buy a box of pizza. You know, okay, let me buy it. It's not super expensive.
And it's, I mean, it's forever. So pizza doesn't last.
Right? Yeah, that's my favorite comparison. Then the other question is like, you know, how
community.
You know, you know, how social media helping to build our community. Like one of the things that has helped our own brand, you know, and has helped us to really like, you know, make a statement just, you know, 5 plus years or 5 years into the business is the fact that we've leveraged social media a lot, you know. So today we've got about 40K plus followers on Instagram, close to 10,000 followers on Twitter. And so we realize that social media is you know, is sort of like a way to bring people together, people who have, you know, interest in books. You know, we've leveraged that tool a lot. So it's helped us to build community. It's helped us to be able to like, you know, stimulate interest in books. You know, we work with like bookstagrams to be able to like, you know, promote books. You know, so that's something that has really helped us. And I also think that even the incubators that we met in the market, they're sort of like playing catch up, right? So we don't see it as a threat, you know, to say, oh, because people are on their phones. We actually see it as a way to actually, you know, bring books closer to them. Like, you know, how can we, you know, use, you know, Instagram to make books really cool, to make it exciting, to say, okay, you have a bag, in the weekend you're going somewhere to have like a drink, you're relaxing, take a book along, you're going to the beach, like, that's, so really, really make it cool and make it like, something that, that's like the next thing to do, to say, okay, you're buying the bag, oh, but what book are you reading? So that's
great. There's there's piracy. There's a lot of piracy in Nigeria. Does it like really bother you a bit?
Yes, we're bothered. We're bothered, but the good thing is, or what gives us sort of comfort is the fact that, like, the market we serve are people, the kinds of people that we serve and we hope to serve are people who are passionate about buying original books, right? So, for instance, when people come into our store and say, but I saw this book in traffic for 2,000 naira, I said, okay, but
that's not original.
That's not the original print. Like, that you can check. But it's the same content. But like I said, okay, but I hope someday you become successful and you write your own book. Will you be happy if your book is sold in traffic? Yeah, but it's not. But it's just pricking their conscience to say, like, you want to buy a book, you're particular about the price, but if you buy it in traffic, like, the odds are high that, like, you're buying a pirated book, and then the author
is also losing out.
He's not even getting a dime from from his intellectual property. Someone else is profiting from it. So it's just getting him to see that, okay, today I'm just like a struggling student who wants to read a book, but I don't have any scruples around buying a pirated book. But someday when I become a successful person, I want to make money off my intellectual property, and it's just I think that we as a bookstore, we also have that obligation to let the reading public know that, like, the margins on these things are really, really tiny, but just letting them know that, like, books, just like music, just like movies, the intellectual property, and we need to respect the rights of, like, the owners.
Great. You've spoken a lot about reading, building a community, growing the brand. Let's talk about you.
Okay.
Do you have any other hobbies aside reading? So what do you do in your free time?
I like to travel.
Even
though I don't enjoy flying. Flying is like one of my
greatest fears.
Yeah, I used to. I had a nasty experience once, and I don't think I never recovered from that shock of, like, so I love traveling. I love adventure. So one of the things I'm very, very proud of is, like, hiking and summiting Kilimanjaro. Like, I did that in 2014.
How was it?
It was the craziest thing I ever did. I don't think I would do that again because I have.
Really?
I have kids now.
Don't you want to go to, like, the higher? There are mountains higher than that.
Yeah, of course, like, they're bigger, yeah. But, the thing is, like, mountain hiking or whatever, like, mountain climbing is, like, it's very, very dangerous, right? So, if you're hiking Kilimanjaro, every year I think about an average of 10 people die trying to hike. I had my own, like, nasty experience, like, after I submitted, and I sort of, like, passed out, and then I woke up with, like, an oxygen mask.
And
then
that must have been scary.
Yeah, it was like, if I had kids, I wouldn't have considered doing that, right? But now I have kids, and it's sort of like moderate the kinds of risk I take. But I enjoy, like, adventure. I like seeing new places. I like exploring the world. Particularly places that are off the grid, like, not very popular places, because it's my own way of, like, reflecting, imagining what my own, community will look like, and sort of, like, challenging myself to say, why can't we recreate things like this, back at home? So I enjoy traveling. I enjoy, like, having interesting conversations with friends and strangers, like, yeah. So I like it when sometimes when I go to places, I could, have, like, a map to say I'm going to spend this time, and then I meet someone interesting and we end up talking for, like, two hours. Like, so those are the kinds of things that I enjoy. Of course, like, books. Like, I enjoy reading books, and I love spending time with my kids. Even though I don't think I
spend a lot of time, but you just love it.
Yeah, but sitting down, sometimes when I am not with them, I end going through my phones and I'm, like, smiling and, like, oh my God, I'm the dad of, like, this beautiful. So I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot. And I also enjoy, like, just quiet moments when I'm just by myself, thinking, reflecting and just, taking everything in.
Great. So I was gonna ask, if you maybe never owned RovingHeights and then you never did, your normal consulting, what career path, I mean, aside journalism, because I know you mentioned that, what career path do you think you would have gone for?
Of course.
Maybe an astronaut.
No. Maybe I'll own a gallery. Yeah,
like
because
art.
I like, so, yeah, those are, but I mean, it's, yeah, own a gallery, yeah, definitely. And it's something that is like, no, I don't know how to draw.
Oh.
Like I tried that when I was much younger, like, but I realized I wasn't a very good, So yeah, obviously, like maybe like, gallery or being an art curator. And one of the things I hope, I'm able to do as I grow older and maybe become, materially comfortable is to actually like, help to build more art spaces, because I think that, we need to develop as a people like a better appreciation of art, particularly, for kids, get them to like love those kinds of things, love beauty, love, appreciate those things,
yeah.
because like it makes them better human beings, like, and ensure that our public spaces are also filled with those things, right? Not just like empty buildings, gigantic skyscrapers that like, they're just empty and soulless, but like, look around, there are things that will cause you to contemplate, things that will cause you to reflect and just, question, challenge, provoke, ask questions, and so obviously like, if I wasn't doing this and I, wasn't doing journalism, maybe I would be working in like, those kinds of work.
What is your favorite book?
That's a tough question.
Yes.
It's always changing, right? I mean, like, so what would be my favorite?
I mean, you have access to a lot of books.
Yeah, I
but
do.
there has
Like,
to be one book
a lot of them, like, that it's like I look at my study and the books I have in there, the ones I've read and the ones I haven't been able to read. Let me see the book.
Fiction.
Let me see. So I would say like maybe like let me think of a book that made the most impression on me when I was much younger. So I read a book when I was in the university by a Russian dissident called Alexander Solzhenitsyn. So he wrote this book called Gulag Archipelago. So it was about his life in as a Soviet dissident, like during the days of the Cold War, and how like just because he was questioning like the orthodoxy of his days, like the fact that like the Soviet Union was like a big prison where you couldn't think your own independent thoughts, like everything was controlled, and for just being a dissident and like he was put in a gulag, and just his writing and he was talking about like years of privation, years of suffering, but and I thought, yeah, I was an undergrad. Right? I was an undergrad when I wasn't so young.
Okay.
And for me, maybe the closest to that would be like the Abacha years, right? I was in my early teens then, and just trying to like, I thought that was the worst, right? But looking at the human sufferings that people go through, or people have gone through, and how, in a sense, like it also helps them to become better human beings, right? When you expect them to be angry, to be bitter, they're able to use those moments to also reflect and look inwards into their own soul. So that's one book that has made a very huge impression on me. Then which other one? I read a lot of books about like what happened in the Second World War, particularly what happened to the Jews, the Holocaust, and for me it always reminds me of like the human capacity for both good and evil, right? And tells me that it's the reason why we need to have very strong institutions, very strong, have a robust open society that can challenge, and can restrain powerful people.
So that brings us to my last question. And my last question would be, what are your plans for RovingHeights? So beyond, I mean, it's a bookstore, it's going well, you're selling online, offline, you're creating a culture, growing a community. Or are there other like things that you've thought in your mind that, okay, maybe in the next 5 years, this is what we want to explore, want to build into something more, gigantic, something more fantastic?
Yeah, sure. We're ambitious, and I think that we're like I always say that we're just getting started, so our business is for the most part still owned by three of us. We're not taking any money from folks outside. So we hope in the coming before the end of the year we'll do like a small raise. We'll open it up and get some other investors to come in and help us grow. Our goal is to be a chain of bookstores, brick and mortar stores, while also having a strong online presence. So say over the next 3-4 years, maybe increase our footprint to 20-25 across Nigeria. Focus on the big cities like Lagos, Abuja, maybe Port Harcourt, Kano, Kaduna, Ibadan, and then have physical outlets in cool spaces like this. So that's one. We also hope to broaden the range of books that we carry and ensure that as long as books that people are just like the New York Times will say, all books fit to read. As long as all news fits to read, or if there are books that people are interested in, irrespective of the genre, we would carry them. So we want to increase the range of books that we carry. Then also to respond to the needs of the market, we would, start to do ebooks, carry ebooks on our website, carry audiobooks. So we want to broaden that. And also as a way of also giving back to to the book community, we want to work with publishers to be able to pass on some of the feedbacks that we're getting from people when they come to buy books, to say, okay, why are books like this? Why don't you have these kinds of colors do well? People respond to these kinds of cover better. So we would invest in collecting that data and making that available to them. Then of course community, helping to build community. So we would look at ways in which to endow prizes, to say RovingHeights prize for the best book of the year. So just to reward literary excellence. So these are some of the things that we have in the offing. But then of course, more importantly, I think we would still just continue to ensure that we're serving our customers better, bringing them good books at price points that they can afford.
Thank you so much.